On this video, I'm joined by a special guest, a real-life autistic pro athlete, to talk about life as a pro athlete and an autistic person. Let's go. Welcome, my friend. Thank you so much for joining me and watching this video. I'm Orion Kelly, that autistic guy. I'm all about raising your level of understanding, acceptance, and appreciation of the autistic community. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, I'd be delighted if you'd consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. The best bit is you will join the most amazing YouTube community. Let's get to my very special guest. You're going to love her. Emma Stanbury is a pro athlete based here in Australia. She has played at the absolute top level of soccer in Oz, also known as football. And I can't wait to talk about her experiences, good and bad, as an autistic person and a professional athlete. The amazing Emma Stanbury. Welcome, Em.
Oh, thanks for having me, Orion. I'm very happy to be here.
The last time we spoke, I did a podcast for Aspect, like coordination and sport and movement and that kind of stuff for autistic kids and for autistic people. But I know that when we had that conversation, the only reason I bring it up is because it's pretty much what we're going to be talking about today, but there was like a minuscule part of that conversation where I finally got an opportunity to, I cracked you, I got through, and we finally started talking about some of the tricky situations you had to navigate as a pro athlete. Globally, they'd call it a pro footballer. In Australia, soccer, whatever you want to do. That's really interesting that today we can really have a good chat about your experiences as a pro athlete. For everyone watching who doesn't know you, we're going to get your experience, but we're not just going to get your experience as a pro athlete. Tell us, tell us a bit about you as a person. Okay, so for starters, I'm sorry if I say this wrong. Like, what do you identify as? Like, what's your pronouns? Are you a female, or like are you straight? Just let everyone understands who you are.
Yeah, no, that's all good. I identify as a woman, and sexuality, I'm a lesbian, so have been for most of my life. When I kind of realised when I was younger, I've been a footballer most of my life, and I'm in that transitioning stage now of just trying to find my next step in my journey. So
this is just, I think, unbelievable as a resource for people. I mean, you know better than me, but presumably there's a lot of young autistic women, diagnosed, undiagnosed, that from your point of view, do you remember not just struggling with who am I as in this brain, but who am I as in a person, sexuality, identity, or like, did you find when you were a young woman, or you still are, but that there were a lot of struggles that weren't just one thing? Like, does being autistic make it hard to understand other aspects of you as a person?
Yeah, well, when I was younger, obviously everything was quite a challenge for me. It's taken me a lot of work over the years to get to a stage now where I have a bit more awareness around myself and my triggers. But when I was younger and obviously going through the stages of working out my sexuality, if I'm being quite honest, I was almost homophobic when I was younger, because especially hearing from other people's opinion and being a female, that would mask not only people's, I guess, actions and the way they spoke. I also tried to mask what was right. And when I was younger and, going back to before I Kissed a Girl by Katy Perry came out, it wasn't cool to be gay. It wasn't, it was still looked down upon. And for me, internally, already having so many boundaries with, how I communicated with people, I tried to shut that off. It was really challenging time for me. And so, yeah, I was actually quite homophobic, which is sad to say now, because I think it's just my life has changed ever since I've accepted myself, and I've got a beautiful family that supported me as well.
Isn't that the problem, though, being like an undiagnosed or a diagnosed autistic person? You're pretty much born into seeking acceptance and never getting it, and therefore fearing that not only will it never come, but you'll never work out how to get it. It's one thing to say, I know how to mask to try and fit in, but it's another thing to say, and that's actually successful. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, 100%, yeah. Yeah, I definitely do. I just hope now, especially with all these resources, like your YouTube channel, like the next generation and the younger kids coming through, especially autistic or not, they're just the LGBTQI plus family, that there's just resources out there, and there is a safe community and family waiting to just give you the biggest hug and all the love and support. So yeah, I wish I could tell myself when I was younger that everything's going to work out okay.
So stereotypically, we're unco and clumsy and bad at sport. And that's not true, but that is true for some. How did you get into sport? How did as a young kid?
Yeah, well, you haven't seen me swimming, so I'm definitely clumsy and uncoordinated there. You know, with my family are very, very sporty. So there is a part in the genetics there that I think has come into play. But my dad, just ever since I was a kid, has had me out the back with a ball of some sort, just from a very early age. And yeah, I had that safe environment, and my parents accepted me for all my weird and wacky ways. So I never had a bad experience with sport. It was always good for me. And so yeah, just it started young, and we realized I had a talent there, and just went with it.
It's interesting that they discovered, or you discovered, like a love and a talent for soccer so early in life, because I mean I played it as well, but there are more typical Aussie sports to play, right? Like netball, for example. You should have played netball, I should have played footy, right? But I did actually play soccer. Why do you think that happened just by chance, or what did you love about the round ball?
I grew up as a rugby league supporter. My family was massive, and I still am. I absolutely love rugby league. But one day, I think I was about 6 years old, I was out the front, and my next door neighbour, Blake, was out the front. He was kicking a soccer ball. And I honestly hadn't ever recognised one before. And I just went over there, and I started juggling the ball with him. And his dad said to my dad, Emma's got some talent here. She should come play with the boys. And so it happened by chance that I'd walked out the front at that time, and I never looked back ever since. So
to talk us through that, were girls allowed to play with boys in that kind of high school, primary school? Like, how did that happen for you?
Yeah, so the early part, I was playing on a boys' team, and I was the only girl in the team. And then, obviously, as I started to get better, I had scouts start coming out and watching me. And then I got scouted to go play for a club called Penrith Nepean United, and they were a representative team. And then from there, it just progressed through school. I went to, school tournaments and got picked into like the metropolitan representatives. Then I got selected with New South Wales schoolgirls. And from there, your name grows, coaches see you. And yeah, I guess that's just how it goes.
I'm sure you can understand. There would be some people watching, the mind is boggling here. They're thinking, a pro athlete and an autistic person. And you must have a conversation way more than me. How do you approach that when someone says, what are you talking about? You can't be autistic, you're an athlete.
So I actually only, it sounds funny, come out, because I came out of the closet about being gay when I was a lot younger, but I only came out about being autistic literally last year when I was at Adelaide United. It was actually something that I have kept to myself within my family and told just coaches. I didn't really tell other people, because I have actually had amazing, beautiful memories with football, but because of my autism and the lack of knowledge and understanding that people have around it, especially when you present as neurotypical, I've had some of the worst experiences. I've been held back, and I can put my hand up and say I probably could have handled a couple of situations better, but then I think, actually no, I was in the middle of a meltdown and I can't help that. But it's seen as being unprofessional in football. It's been hard being autistic and a professional athlete, because the word professional is used very highly.
You know what I think about the word professional. You know my videos on professionalism and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, let's talk about that. Okay, so for starters, I want to be very clear. This isn't about a club. This isn't about a league. I don't want to talk about or blame clubs and leagues. This is about a culture of humanity. We're framing that. Emma's experiences are framed on that respect. How can we help humanity, help up-and-coming professional athletes, be that boys and girls, men, women, whatever. So let's talk about it. Let's be real though. Okay. So when you were doing rep stuff, like kind of state level, regional level rep stuff, and then you've progressed through to, which by the way, if people watching, like, this isn't a joke. This is the peak league for football, soccer, for men and women in Australia that Emma said she's played in. This is the peak league. This is legit. I know you weren't telling people, or there might not have been a clear diagnosis or whatever, but you're born autistic, you die autistic. How early did it start where people were starting to say, you're not very professional, Em, or geez, what's your deal, or why are you so emotional, or why are you losing it, or how early do you remember that starting?
Yeah, so under 12s was, I was probably, I think I was 10 years old before I got pulled up into under 14s, because they thought I was good enough to play in the high age group. When I was 10, it was some of my best footballing memories, because kids at that age, they just want to have fun. So my out there personality, my wacky ways was seen as, oh, she's cool, she's funny, da-da-da. Once I hit under 14s, that's just where downfall happened straight away. So I was about 12 years old and bullying started massively. And I mean, some traumatic things happened to me that just absolutely shattered who I was as a person back then. And I used to go home crying to my dad every day, and saying, why do these girls treat me like this? Why am I the outcast? Like, what am I doing wrong? And Dad always says, oh, they just can't handle how out there you are. Like, try and maybe tone it down a bit. I'm trying not to make a joke all the time, because joking's my coping mechanism in situations. Like, it could be a bad situation and I'll just come out with a joke and people will look at me and be like, now's not the time. And I'm like, oh, sorry about that. But yeah, so started definitely when I was younger, and throughout those years, there's been patches where there's been worse years, depending on the coaching staff, the people that are in the teams, and other years that have been actually really good. So, and that does come down to people that take the time to listen and understand and empathize with the situation. So,
but being bullied at such a young age, like I've got an 8-year-old son, he's been getting bullied since prep. I mean, it's horrific. It's like, this is ridiculous, guys. Like, seriously, how do you keep going towards a goal of pro athlete in those situations? How did you get through it? Like, what? Because I'm assuming you thought, this is like stuff this kind of thing. I mean, I don't understand how you get through this kind of stuff.
I think I didn't know I was going to be a professional athlete back then, but what I did know is how much I loved the game. And that is all I wanted to do, was the game. And so no matter how much I got bullied, no matter how many times I went home crying, asking Dad, why is this happening to me? I always just wanted to get out on that park and kick that ball. And I guess that was ultimately my driver. And also, the positive feedback from the coaches, that constant kind of, just ignore it, Emma, they're jealous of your talents and all those kind of things. As a kid, to me, that kind of gave me a bit of a confidence boost to be able to go through it. But it's set me up for when I turned 16, 17 for a very bad psychological era, really, because I went through depression, anxiety. It all stemmed from the bullying that I was put through from when I was younger. So
for me, and this is obviously similar to you, for me, my mindset is, if I've got a job to do or there's something I want to achieve, I'm going to achieve it, and I'm going to be bloody annoyed at people who get in the way or don't want to achieve it like I want to achieve it. Now, in a team sport, as an autistic woman playing pro soccer, you must have to bite your tongue when you want to tell a teammate, what is your problem? Like, suck it up and let's move. You stuffed that play up. You didn't do that play well. What happened there? What happened here? Did you ever find yourself, when you under the pro pressures of starting to be more autistic outwardly, as in the pressure was just, this is legit now and I can't mask anymore, and it's starting to come out, the expectations? Did you have problems with teammates at the pro level for that respect?
100%, yeah. And like, when the pressure's added, I also have Tourette's. When the pressure's on, I become more aware internally of how I'm feeling. And they're actually really good with the Tourette's. Sometimes I'd come out and just spurt a word at a halftime speech and everyone would just continue on their way. And that was all good. But as soon as a meltdown is actually happening in front of their face and they're confronted with seeing it, that's when it's a whole different ball game. So like, when things don't go away that I think they should, for instance, there was again, not mentioning clubs, there was a situation where a coach, split us up and he got 4 people out the front. And I am so against doing this, because this does enable bullying. It enables popularity, all those kind of things. And they got the 4 girls to take a turn each to pick someone on your team until you've got the last kid standing. And so when that happened, I was like, you can't do this. And this is in front of everyone. And they're thinking, why are you reacting this way? I said, you can't do this. It's like, and I'm obviously coming from an internal fear of having to go through this when I was a kid. I was like, you can't do, like, imagine being the girl that gets picked last. And that led to me running off the field, hiding in a shed, covering my head, because I had this complete overload of emotions, and I was benched that week. I was also picked last, so that was expected. But yeah, I got dropped for it, because how can I question the coach? And yeah, that's not professional. And so there's definitely been challenges here and there that are along those lines where I haven't been able to bite my tongue.
That situation is like the quintessential bullying scene in all movies and TV shows. Like, I think I saw something recently with my son. And like, there was the dude, it was like a different person, and then they picked the other person, and then they zoomed out, and the other person was on crutches. You picked the person on crutches with a broken leg before that. You know what I'm talking about? I saw that recently with my kid. It's like, it's a quintessential bullying scene. But here's the thing. Coaches can have their own weird stuff. Well, let's park that. But this is the other thing. I always talk about autistic people being fired because of the HR policies, which have no relevance to autistic people's minds. The kind of this professional manner, which is a farce of a phrase. To be fired for being autistic is a big issue for autistic people, and to be benched To be benched is an extension of being fired. I mean, if you're a professional athlete and you're benched, from my point of view, without ever being a professional athlete, that's about as bad as it gets for the success and the look of your career. I mean, you want to be starting, and not only do you want to be starting, you want to be amongst it. You want to be getting some ball. You want to be up and about. And to be benched for not form or your want to practice, but to be benched because there's no need to even justify it. You're being an autistic person and responding to a particular situation. Okay, so let's assume that the club had no understanding or knowledge. That's not good enough. They have to be able to understand and learn and grow. But let's assume they did know. Then that's even worse. That you can't so whether they did or they didn't know, how do you think we get clubs, coaches, staff, teammates?
Yeah. The worst one was, everyone was aware of it, and I had actually gotten, given player of the match. I think it was either the game before or the one prior to that, and I was a starter, and we had a really bad game, and I came out, and I actually said to a close friend on my team, I said, I can feel myself. I need to get into a quiet space. I need to just go. I need to get out of here. So I went to get my bags to walk out, and one of the coaches says, you can't leave. You can't put yourself before the team. And I just kept walking because I'm like, I'm about to, lose it. And I started to walk around a corridor, and my friend's chasing after me. She's like, Chook, come back in. You got to be in with the team. This won't look good. And in the midst of this and her coming at me and all these people, I've had a meltdown right then and there. And as I've had that meltdown, one of the staff members have come through the door that opens to the general public, and fans saw it. And so I've then just basically bolted out, managed to get myself out of the stadium, got to my car, went home. Literally about a day later, I get a message from my coach stating that this is a serious thing that's happened. I don't know how to handle this situation. We're going to, drop you from the team for the next week. Please don't come to training. I was barred from training for the whole week. So not only had I had that situation, I then had to stay at home and be isolated for it. And I ended up being dropped for the next 3 weeks. And I think I maybe got a couple of starts towards the end of it, all because of this situation. Now, had people have been understanding and empathetic and knowing there's someone on the team that's autistic, why is there not, whether it's a support worker or someone that knows I might need a quiet space, just saying, Chook needs to go, we're just going to take her into the room, we'll either be back in a bit or you won't see her. But that doesn't happen.
But see, this is a broader conversation. Actually, I don't care if your team are empathetic or not, right? They don't have to, they can be whoever they want. This is a broader conversation. What I do care about is that they don't discriminate against you based on what I would call a diagnosable condition, disability, whatever, okay? But it's against the Discrimination Act, right, to actually discriminate against you, to take you off, to bench you, to take you away from the club for doing nothing but being autistic. That's actually, so number one, it's illegal. It's a breach of Discrimination Act and it's illegal. We don't want to minimise this. This isn't a joke. It's not like you opened the door and flashed the fans or yelled at them or swore at them. You had an autistic response. Your brain had an autistic response. You just played best on field. It doesn't matter if you're best on field and you come off and you're the star of the week. Then it doesn't matter because you still, you've performed, but that doesn't just take nothing. That takes a lot. If you're performing in front of a crowd, presumably, and noises and lights and reactions, and you are going to need, relatively quickly, to be in an environment that's going to help you regulate. And just because you had a good game doesn't mean you're going to be any more regulated, potentially less regulated. So this is the problem, right? This is a bigger thing. People have to understand, to bench you, to take you out of the club for a week, to take you off the team for a week for having an autistic response and being failed by everyone, including close friends, all failing you, to kind of forcing you back into the environment that's making it worse. That isn't a lack of empathy. That's a complete unacceptable lack of understanding. And frankly, it's illegal. It's discrimination. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm saying all these people are horrible and should be fired and taken to court and stuff. What I'm trying to say is people need to understand this is actually a serious thing. This isn't just a joke, right? So your career could hang in the balance based on these types of missing games and being benched and all that kind of stuff.
My career has hung. It's meltdowns happen, and it happens regularly, multiple times a year. Not all the time. Let's say maybe I might have 2 big meltdowns a year. And this is why I've been moving clubs. This is why I've missed out on opportunities. This is why I'm starting at the beginning of the season, because they get Emma that is, ticking all the boxes. That's a player we want. But then towards the end of the season, I'm being dropped because I get called I'm too hard to handle. I get put in the hard basket. My career could have been very different had I had a neurotypical brain, and I know that. Do I want to change it? No, because I actually love myself now. I can guarantee that. And I love the way that my brain thinks. But I do know that had I have had a neurotypical brain, I would have gone further in football. It's as simple as that. Had I been a yes or no person to a coach.
Yeah. But Emma, I could say the same thing about me in radio and TV and all my careers, right? I could say the same thing. That's just factual. I feel like I'm almost blacklisted for being autistic, right? That's just what the feeling you get. So what do you think, Emma? Do we just give up with autistic girls and tell them don't be pro athletes? Or just, I'm not saying you, but that's what it sounds like, right? Can you make this better? Can you help autistic girls become pro athletes? Can you advocate, or do we just give up on them? Because that's what it sounds like. That's their future, right?
And that's why we're here, and that's why we're talking about it, because this didn't necessarily happen even 10 years ago. And, I've got a few things that are in the background, talking with the Professional Footballers Association about delivering talks on autism and neurodiversity, because ultimately, and I keep saying this and I'll keep repeating it, it comes down to understanding and the knowledge of what it actually is. And these people don't take enough time. They go, oh yeah, I know what autism is. Oh, you don't look it, but, or no worries, we'll help you. But then it's in your face and a meltdown's happening. Oh, that's too much to handle. Well, no, actually it's not. And if you learn a way to help calm that situation down, there's no situation there to be had. It's just who they are.
But see, listening to your story really pisses me off. It really makes me upset. It really angers me. It's like, it frustrates me. And it's like, let's put it this one more way. You play best on ground, you come off, you have an epileptic fit. Sorry, Emma, you can't behave like that in front of the fans. You had an epileptic seizure. You can't behave like that in front of the fans. You're benched. What world would that happen? You tell me what world that would happen. Now, what's a meltdown? It's an uncontrollable reaction of your brain. Right, so it's an autistic seizure, in effect. Just being crude. So you have an autistic seizure, and your career can be ruined. Can you imagine if a player had best on ground and then had an actual seizure and then got benched? So it's unthinkable. Believe it or not, I don't know why, but people watch this channel. God only knows why. A lot of people watch this channel. The government watch this channel. I went to Canberra to talk to... Okay, so I don't care what gender the league is. If you're a professional league in Australia and you're not asking Emma to come and talk to your people, then you're stupid. You're drunk. Seriously, because it doesn't matter what gender it is. If you're not talking to the soccer leagues of Australia about your experiences and how they can make it better, then the soccer leagues need to grow up. Like, if there's not a sporting league in Australia that isn't talking to you about, because who's more qualified? You're an autistic professional athlete. You need to be talking to these leagues for girls, for boys, for parents, for carers. How can you help them? What do you say to them? Like, it's going to be hard. Give up, or like, don't give up. Like, what do you say to them?
That's, it's tough right now, because if I was to have that conversation right now, I would say there's so much work to do. There is so much work to do, but now more than ever is when we need to start doing it. It needs to start, and we need to start implementing things. We need to start having the conversations again, educating people and start the ball rolling, because like I said, I don't want someone to go through what I've been through. Yes, I've had amazing times, some of the best memories, and I've been in teams that have been supporting, but that's like a needle in a haystack. I've been playing for 23, 24 years or something, and I think I've had 2 years that I can genuinely say, and that was with one club where, wow, I was actually happy and these people accepted me for who I was. But that needs to happen every year. That needs to happen for any team that any autistic person goes into, and they need to feel comfortable, and they need to know that if they need their space, they can have it without being judged and not be benched or not be criticized or not be told you're unprofessional,
And
because
don't take training away. Don't take training away from an autistic person.
Yeah.
Bad move. We've got AFL, rugby league, soccer, basketball, we have netball, I don't know. We have a lot of professional leagues in Oz. So you need to talk to all these leagues. These leagues need to get you to talk to them. Presumably to you, I get the impression from your point of view, it's becoming more of a mission of yours going forward to advocate for people that were you in your shoes that weren't there advocating for you. I feel like this is something you're passionate about.
It's getting harder for me because I'm sitting here talking to you right now and I'm not playing in the league this year. And I can guarantee you I'm not playing in that league because I'm autistic. And it's awful. It's awful because I know I have the talent. I've proven it. But because of my, in their words, my attitude and, you know, the being too hard to handle, I get pushed to the side because it's just so much easier to get someone, you know, that might be either close or on par to my talent that will just say, yes, coach, no coach, and they can get by. So yeah, it's hard for me because, you know, I'm 31. I'm not bloody 40 years old. I could still be playing technically. I should be at the bottom of my peak. So I'm still where I should be playing at my highest level, but I'm not because I guess my bridges have been burnt from being autistic, from having meltdowns. One meltdown I had with another club was because I'm celiac and I got given gluten and I ate it and I went because I knew I was going to be sick. But because I was wearing that club shirt, it was unprofessional. But I knew everything that was about to happen and I went into panic and I was like, I'm going to have to go to hospital, But that was another moment from going starting player to not starting.
The way we react and process and understand things is very different, and that's not a bad thing. That's a different thing. And my wife has celiacs. If she has it's a legit diet. If she has the slightest bit of, you know, anything, I mean, talking like she'll be vomiting and she'll have it coming out the other end at the same time. I mean, it's not, you don't want to see it, right? And don't start me on trying to like take her to restaurants when she's pregnant. Forget about it. This isn't a joke. Like, you could react like that for obvious reasons. It really stuffs your body up.
Yeah, but you know, they'll say, why'd you react like that? Why didn't you, you know, hold your emotions until we get into the bus? Why didn't you take time to process how you could have spoken to them? And I'm like, I don't have that in my toolbox.
The answer is you still were. You're reacting and processing at the same time.
Yeah.
But because you're autistic, and that's the thing. That's the ideal thing. You have a different brain, you're different, and that's what it's all about. It's not about being hard to deal with or hard to manage or not professional, but it's none of those things. You have a different brain. You can't see the world the same as they do. We don't want you saying you wish you had a neurotypical brain so you would have had a better career, because that's not acceptable. That's not acceptable for society. For society to have put you in that position shows where we are. I'm sorry to hear about the current playing situation. It's just, I don't understand. And hopefully these kind of conversations can help you break down some barriers, because you don't spend your whole life to waste your talent. So, and hopefully that's not something that you'll have to deal with. But God, it must stuff you up. It must stuff you around sitting on the sidelines.
It's been hard, but like I said, I did say, you know, if I did have a neurotypical brain, I would have progressed further, but I wouldn't change it because I love who I am. And although I'm not playing, I'm transitioning into coaching. And so I'm in a position now where I can influence and help the next generation coming through. And I know that a big ability for me with my autism, as we know it's a spectrum, is my connecting to people and being able to help as much as I can, and you know, have a lot of empathy and want to do my best to try and help people. I keep saying not go what I went through, because I've had a beautiful life, but I have gone through a lot, and I just want to stop that next generation from, because there is a lot coming out now, whether it's autism, ADHD, there's a lot of mental health issues.
Oh yeah, it's not about minimizing it either. Everyone's life is different, so you don't have to minimize it. Like, what you've gone through is unacceptable, because you could have had a different career. So yeah, but I totally get what you're saying. You know that Netflix basketball show? There's a dude on the this year's season's team who's autistic, Josh. Last Chance U, that university, that I'm talking about, East LA or whatever. But this year there's a dude on it. His name's Josh, and he's autistic. You don't find out till like a few episodes in. And the coach was like yelling and screaming at him. That he didn't know, and he found out. Totally changed. His whole way of coaching him changed, and everything was non-confrontational conversations, positive reinforcement. The whole team, changed the mentality. He's like a monster on the court. But it just shows. Do you see how it's not hard for him? How hard is it? You just talk to people differently, and the team really get behind him too.
Yeah, this is the funny thing with coaching. I don't understand why they scream. And the analogy that I say is, you've seen so many, I guess, serial killer movies, right? And the girl's got the key, and she's running to the car because someone's chasing after her. Now, any day of the week, when you hop on your car and there's, you're just in a chill mood, you put your key in and you go. But when you're getting chased down and someone's like, I'm going to kill you, she's doing these ones, and you expect them to perform. It's the same in sport.
That same principle exists also in that instance. You yelled, open the bloody door! It's like, open the door, get the key! Exactly, yeah, exactly right. This has been a great conversation. I've really enjoyed it, and I think it's such an interesting conversation, but also such an important conversation. So hopefully we can actually, start to make some sort of differences, but only because of your openness and honesty. That's the best part. So I really appreciate you being so open and honest.
Yeah, no, I've appreciated the chat, and I just want to reiterate that even if you are autistic, you 100% can play professional sports, and it's changed my life for the better because I'm who I am today. But the conversation is here because you need to know what you deserve and how you shouldn't be treated, and that's what we need to change.
Beautifully said, Em. Hey, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
No, I appreciate it too. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, Emma, for being on the show. Thank you for watching. I'm certain it's resonated with you. If it has, please share it with your family and friends so they can see it and learn from it too. I really do appreciate your support. Until my next video, thank you so much for watching, and we'll talk soon.